The very first teaser for the next Avengers movie, Avengers Doomsday, has just dropped. Without a doubt, this is just bleak, and while my expectations for Marvel have been low for years now, I really didn't think it would come to something like this. Let's just get right into it. This 1 minute and 25-second teaser gives us so little, yet so much at the same time, because guess what? Steve Rogers is returning, the Chris Evans Captain America, who is riding a British motorcycle, by the way. The Captain America who died in Endgame. The Captain America whose story arc wrapped up perfectly. The Captain America who was literally succeeded by the Captain America there is now, who had his own movie this year. Aside from the obvious problems with this that you may have already been able to tell, why is this the first teaser? Of course, I also know the answer to that, but let's dive into some other stuff first. Avengers Doomsday has literally been set up for a while now. Like, both Thunderbolts and the Fantastic Four movie were direct lead ins to this movie. The multiverse arc was also setting this up for a while now, but of course, we see how that's been going. Yet, because of how not confident Marvel seems to be, they have to start teasing the movie this way to get people excited because it's more guaranteed to be a hype driver than something else would be in their minds. And that's really disappointing because now it basically tells us subtly that the last 6 years of buildup isn't going to be what the movie is going to work for. Paying it all off doesn't seem to be their goal. Instead, their goal seems to be to make kind of a diet legacy sequel. And nothing says this more either than the fact that in September of next year, they plan to re release Avengers Endgame with a new post credit scene that is rumored to lead into Doomsday. Now, question, did they re release any of the previous Avengers movies with this kind of add on? No, because they didn't need to, since when they were, when they had a narrative coherent goal they were reaching for, they didn't need to do this to artificially build up height. It was already built and set in stone how both Infinity War and Endgame would go. What this clearly shows to all of us is that Doomsday's marketing is basically just going to be what we're seeing right now, in that they're solely catering to nostalgia and hype. And this is because, well, they have been struggling to generate any of that without kind of showing to us that they're bringing back the characters that we loved from the first three phases of the MCU, which is really disappointing because, again, there was a lot of potential for this not to be marketed this way. But also, Steve Rogers coming back at all, again, he had a perfect arc and a perfect ending. Everything wrapped up perfectly for him. And if the reports are true that Doctor Doom is actually going after Steve Rogers in this, then, well, you're basically doing that meme where you're defiling his grave for money, which again is just symbolic of the fact that the MCU really is desperate to have those days back where they were just printing money with every movie they dropped and everything was a guaranteed at least $1 billion at the box office. And this just really, really, really emphasizes the fact that, well, the MCU should have been more patient and spent another decade building up the Secret Wars event. Again, this was originally going to be two movies in 1 year. Originally, the Kang Dynasty, and then Secret Wars. Then we saw what happened with Jonathan Majors. But honestly, even with that happening, if they had a few more years to plan out the story, it probably wouldn't have had to come to them essentially bringing back two people who died in Avengers Endgame, who had their stories wrap up perfectly. This doesn't feel like the natural progression. It just feels like grasping at straws to get you back to the theater to watch their movie. There was so much they could have done, and Secret Wars event is, again, the biggest, I want to say, the biggest event that Marvel has ever done in their comics. It's like such a gigantic event. It would have been perfectly fine if they spent 10, maybe 15 years building up to this, but they were impatient, and this is what we got. So, because of that, that just really does not fill me up with confidence that this is going to be. Well, I'm not too optimistic about the movie at this point, especially after seeing this teaser. But what this also emphasizes to me is, well, the MCU's future is a little bleak because just what is their future after this? Where are they going? Do they have confidence that they're going to continue to be successful following this? I really don't know what Kevin Feige or Disney in general are thinking because, well, Secret Wars is something so gargantuan. I don't know what they could have in store following that, if they even have a plan at all. I mean, it's very possible they don't have a plan for this. Although I have heard uh, reports and rumors that they plan to reboot the MCU after Secret Wars, but even then, it's like we saw how the DCEU went, and maybe the MCU could just be heading for a bunch of versions of that. And this just shows us that, well, it was always clear that Endgame was going to be the peak, but it didn't have to be the final gigantic thing Marvel did that they were super confident in, where they were a titan standing above all, instead of doing what they have to do now, which again really sucks because Secret Wars could have been something that sure, we'd have to wait longer, but the wait would have been worth it because had you built up to this in a much better way with a much more coherent plan, setting out the multiverse, fleshing out whether it was going to be Doctor Doom or Kang, this really could have this really could have been a lot better than it looks like it's going to be, which is disappointing. And, well, we have a year to find out how the first of these two main event movies are going to go. And right now, those expectations are ever lower for me. So, yeah, we'll see how it goes.